I reading this right? The Jasmy team just bought 24 million Jasmy coins, equivalent to $500,000 just yesterday. This is pretty interesting. So I want to talk a little bit about that today because this is, I think this could be pretty bullish for the Jasmy ecosystem overall. Obviously, that's a decent chunk of buying pressure, and what they're planning on using it for, I think makes a decent chunk of sense, and I think is what a lot of the Jasmy holders have been looking to see for quite some time. So I want to talk about that today because this could be some pretty interesting news. I know usually we don't get a ton of news from the Jasmy team, but this is a pretty good one. This is, I think, what a lot of people will be very, very pleased to see. So anyway, let's go ahead. We'll dive right in. We'll start out with crypto bubbles just because we can see, a pretty nice bounce on the market today. A lot of the things that we like to talk about on the channel here, not up too much. Some of the ones up, I guess we've talked about Tau before. Tau's a pretty good one, but like Solana, but about 1.7, ICP 1.2, Jasmy 1.8, Bitcoin 1.5. We got Cardano here at 3.7, XRP at 6.2. So, a pretty moderate bounce overall, but we are seeing some of these smaller coins like IP and Telcoin coming up a decent chunk. And then we've seen Phantom do pretty well. This is now Sonic. They did a rebrand. Say's seen a nice little bump. That's because some of the Trumps had bought, I think, about 125 grand worth of Say. So we'll have to see. Sui's another one that we've been watching too, and that's seen a nice little bounce too. But of course, the topic of the video today, we are seeing Jasmy up about 1.8% today. So not too much movement, which is a little bit interesting. If we do look, we can actually see still down on the week and the month. But, a lot of what the information that we're seeing from the Jasmy team, I do think is pretty bullish and pretty interesting. So we are going to take a look at that. Also, we'll take a look at the Jasmy chart. We can see we've actually kind of fallen outside of this descending wedge. Again, how it's drawn, maybe we'll readjust the lines a little bit to see what we can do here. But also, I have started kind of placing some trades here on some various coins that I'm pretty bullish on. So we got Solana, Bitcoin, ICP, and then virtuals. ICP and virtuals are the bottom two. It looks like they might be blocked by my picture. But ICP and virtuals, I did both 5x on. Virtuals is down a decent chunk just because it's kind of falling. And we hadn't really seen a bottom on that one. So this trade is definitely substantially more risky than some of the others, I would say. ICP, another 5x just because I do think that one will do really quite well. I'm still hugely bullish on that one. And then Solana and Bitcoin, both had seen some pretty decent moves back to the downside, and I just felt like it was overextended. And so obviously I went in very, very low leverage because I'm not trying to get liquidated, particularly on a play like this. Like these plays, in my opinion, unless we're just completely wrong on the state of the market and we're actually in a bear market and all this type of stuff, like there's almost no way to lose this type of trade. Again, to clarify, if we are not just completely directionally wrong on the market. So if we do see a bounce and a continued move to the upside, I think all of these trades are probably going to do fairly well. Again, if we exclude the virtuals trade that I made, I'd be up a decent chunk in profit so far. But with the virtuals, we are down still a little bit here. I do think that we will start to see virtuals reverse itself eventually. And when we see that, I think we're going to see some pretty impressive numbers out of all of these. So again, and this is also a demo trading account just so you guys can kind of follow along. I do have other exchanges that I trade on as well. I have those links in the description below if you are interested. Also have the link to BTCC in the description below. Again, we'll get to that here in a second. But before we do that, I want to just kind of take a quick look at the Jasmy chart specifically. If we look at the Jasmy chart, we can see that we've been kind of sitting in this descending wedge. We have actually pulled out of it. We also are seeing the Bollinger Band squeeze. We'll get to that here in a second. Again, this not really is kind of a whimper if it did kind of break out of this descending wedge. So maybe it's something kind of a little bit more like this potentially. And this could be kind of more like the descending wedge that we've seen. And again, of course, maybe this comes down a little bit, something a little bit more kind of like that because this catches some more of these bigger wicks. I'm going to leave it right here for now. But again, this is not meant to be gospel. I personally believe that if you're kind of trading these structures like to the exact, on like every line or whatnot, you're probably a little bit asking for some trouble there, in my opinion, just because the market makers can see a lot of this. The market makers can do a lot of this basic technical analysis, like all of us can, right? And so, they know exactly what we're looking at just as well as we do. And so if we're waiting to play off of, let's say, this exact line right here, they may have it come just above or just below, depending on, what wrecks the most amount of people. Especially, I would imagine, I don't know, actually know this for sure, this is a little bit of speculation, but I would imagine they have access to the order books, or at least very, very good approximations of what the order books look like. And so again, it's very easy for them to see where the liquidity is and where the orders are. So be very careful when you are trading structures like this, and don't try to trade them exactly, is kind of my opinion. But again, you need to kind of make your own decisions. Nothing that I say is financial advice. This is all just kind of my opinion and kind of how I view the market overall. You can agree or disagree, that's completely up to you. So what we can see though here, looking at Bollinger Bands as well, is, as I mentioned, they're starting to squeeze. As we've noticed kind of several times in the past, when Bollinger Bands squeeze, usually this does mean an upcoming period of volatility. We don't know which direction, but we do usually know that it is a period of volatility in some direction. So as we can see here, we saw kind of a really nice squeeze, and then things kind of started to break out a little bit to the downside, and then kind of came around, bounced around. Then we started to see the kind of this really, really strong move to the upside. And particularly when the move really started to expand, we could see the jaws of like the Bollinger Band really just kind of open up wide. And so, that's kind of what happens when you see these huge moves. And conversely, when you start to see, very, very little movement going on, they start to squeeze a little bit. So, we'll have to see, kind of how tight these squeeze and, how long they stay squoze, I guess we could say. But that's kind of what we're looking for right now, is what is happening here. As we can see, price action has been pretty boring. There's not a whole lot going on here. This is similar, I would say, to a lot of things in the crypto market. There's not really much movement going on. I think there's a lot of wait and see type of mentality of what's going on from a fundamental perspective, from a macro perspective, from a regulatory perspective. There's so many things happening right now that I think a lot of the market's trying to figure out, what do we do, kind of with this situation that we're in currently. And so I think that's kind of what people are kind of looking for in terms of guidance. We can see here the Jasmy RSI looking in kind of in the weak section right now, just barely. It's just barely kind of in weak from neutral, but it is in fact in weak. So the RSI showing a little bit of price weakness, but not anything too crazy right now is kind of what it seems to me. We are still kind of in this descending wedge. So, until we can kind of break out of this and see a little bit of a trend reversal, hard to say for sure exactly how low Jasmy can go. It's seeming like it's putting a decent bit of support up here, kind of this like 2.1 cent range. So hopefully we can hold above 2 cents. If not, we might be seeing something like what we saw back here in kind of like the October to November range, where we're sitting consistently below 2 cents, getting as low as like 1.5 cents kind of here at some of the lows. So we'll just have to see how that works out. Overall, from a technical perspective, Jasmy's looking okay. It's not looking particularly great. We are getting back to points where we've kind of given back all of the gains that we've seen kind of from that Trump pump that we saw here in November. So hopefully you guys were taking profits on the way up. Usually, even if you think it's going to go higher, many and oftentimes this type of thing does happen. So even if you were kind of taking profits and selling out on the way up, you could be buying back in on the way down and kind of increasing the number of like the Jasmy number denominated holdings that you have, even though you're not really adding any more like US dollar, fiat, or whatever denomination of currency that you use. Just something to think about there. So anyway, that's kind of what we're seeing from a technical perspective. We are going to continue on with some of the huge news that we've seen from the Jasmy team. Before we do that, like I said earlier in the video, I do have that link in the description below. If you are interested in getting signed up with BTCC, they do have that 10% bonus on first-time deposits, which is awesome because it's guaranteed money. It's free money. I love free money. I'm sure you do as well. Also, $10,055 per user in additional bonuses. Again, on top of the 10% bonus that we see here. And then also no VPN or KYC necessary if that is something that's important to you. So now for the news of the day, we are going to be talking about, this is coming from Hara, so this isn't speculation, this isn't hearsay. We can see, he basically was saying, since the price had dropped, they bought a whole bunch of Jasmy, took it as an opportunity to kind of DCA in and get some Jasmy at a good price, because obviously, they're participants in the market, just like we are. So we can see they bought around that 2.1 cent range. Obviously, quite the nice candle here coming from the Jasmy team. Again, whenever you're buying a $500,000 clip, it's going to impact the price for sure. So that's obviously what we're seeing there. We can see here, this is their wallet. They've got, again, almost 24 million Jasmy, a huge chunk of Jasmy. Then we can see, 500K here. Up a decent bit on the day. I think they picked a good time to buy and enter into the market, which I think is cool. Also, we could see, this is for distribution to the Junction ecosystem. So they're definitely trying to find ways to use Jasmy in the Junction ecosystem. I know there'd been kind of speculation previously that they were going to find ways to incorporate Jasmy within Junction, but we didn't know exactly how. And so I think, obviously, that this is at least a really nice kind of first step into figuring out kind of how they would do it. It sounds like some of the staking rewards or like the what do we call it? Like the compute rewards might actually be kind of rewarded out in Jasmy, which would be fantastic for obviously the Jasmy system and the Jasmy holders. So we'll have to kind of see how it kind of continues along. But this is, I would say, very, very good news. I'm pretty excited about this. Obviously, this shows that, one, the Jasmy team's still around, which I don't know that any of us really doubted that. But it also shows that they're willing to support their project even when, the market may be a little bit skeptical of kind of what's going on. And then also, they're throwing around some decent money to kind of put behind their Junction ecosystem and the rewards associated. So I do think that this is going to be kind of a double benefit in the sense that, one, it's some buying pressure on the Jasmy chart, but it's also showing the wider industry that the team's willing to support Jasmy, they're willing to support Junction, and also there's like reasons to join the Junction network because the rewards and the value that they're going to be passing out is going to be pretty worthwhile. So anyway, I'm pretty happy with what we're seeing out of the Jasmy team, what we're seeing out of the chart, just kind of where Jasmy's sitting right now. I feel pretty pleased with kind of where it's at. Obviously, I would like to see up only just like anybody else, but I think kind of how the chart is playing out, a lot of the kind of wider crypto market wide environments, a lot of that type of stuff, I think things are playing out in a position where this could work out quite well for Jasmy. So we'll have to see, who knows for sure. I have mysteriously misplaced my crystal ball, so I cannot tell you for a fact that this will happen. I just have some confidence that this will happen, and I feel pretty comfortable with the team and how a lot of these things are shaping up. So here's the fingers crossed for a really positive 2025 for Jasmy. It seems like they're off to from price wise, I guess that it's off to a little bit of a rocky start, but fundamentally and technically a lot of that type of stuff, I do think we're in a pretty good position. So anyway, we'll have to see. Hopefully you did find the information in this video useful. If you did, please do give me a like and a subscribe. Also, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, whatever, just drop those in the comment section below. I do try to read and respond to those. So if you have anything you want me to see, that'd be a great way to do so. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.